Saddam Hussein ruled Iraq with an iron fist for over 2 decades. He was feared, brutal, and unrepentant. But on December 30th, 2006, his reign ended not with a bang, but with a noose. Imagine this. The man who once commanded the world's attention, who ruled palaces guarded by secret police and statues of himself, now sits quietly in a bare, dimly lit prison cell. He clutches the Quran. He's calm. No last-minute pleas. No prayers for mercy. Just hours remain before the rope tightens, literally and historically. These were Saddam Hussein's final 24 hours, raw, surreal, and chilling. The morning of December 29, 2006, Saddam Hussein woke up in his U.S.-controlled prison cell at Camp Cropper in Baghdad. He had been held in high-security conditions since his capture in 2003 during Operation Red Dawn, found in a dirt-covered spider hole near Tikrit, disheveled and broken. That image shattered the myth of his invincibility. But in those last hours, he didn't look broken. Muwaffaq al-Rubayi, Iraq's national security advisor at the time, personally oversaw Saddam's execution. He later said, "He was strong until the end. I didn't notice any fear, no trembling, no begging, not even a prayer for forgiveness." Earlier that week, Saddam had received confirmation that his appeal had failed. The Iraqi government, under Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki, had fast-tracked the execution to happen before Eid al-Adha. President George W. Bush, in a video call with Maliki, simply asked, "What are you going to do with this criminal?" Maliki responded, "We will hang him." And Bush raised a single finger, a silent nod of approval. As the sun began to rise on December 30th, a helicopter was readied. Before the journey, Saddam was handed over from U.S. custody to the Iraqi authorities. That moment was symbolic, the final act of justice left entirely in Iraqi hands. No Americans entered the execution chamber, as Rubai later emphasized. There were no foreigners, no Americans, only us. Saddam wore a white shirt. He was handcuffed. In one hand, he held the Quran. On the other hand, nothing, just silence. As he was escorted into the small concrete execution room, he passed through a hallway lined with guards and officials. Some chanted, others just stared. Once inside, Saddam was brought before a judge. The charges were read, not that he hadn't heard them 100 times before. He responded with familiar defiance. "Death to America! Death to Israel! Long live Palestine!" The noose hung waiting. His feet were still tied, so they had to drag him to the platform. As the guards prepared him, one witness shouted, "Long live Imam Muhammad Bakr al-Sadr and Muqtada, Muqtada," referencing the revered Shia cleric executed under Saddam's orders, and his successor, Muqtada al-Sadr. Saddam's last audible words, "Is this serious?" Not a plea, not a denial, just disbelief at the moment's theatrical brutality. He began to recite the Shahada, the Islamic testament of faith. But before he could finish, the rope dropped. The first pull didn't kill him. The second one did. No gasps, no screams, just a thud. Then silence. His body was placed into a white bag. A helicopter lifted off from the execution site, heading toward the green zone to deliver the corpse to Prime Minister Maliki. Rubai later recalled, "The helicopter was full. His body was placed on the floor. When we landed, Maliki himself unzipped the bag and checked the face. It was Saddam." At dawn, the sun spilt over Baghdad, casting gold on a city still torn by sectarian hatred and daily bombings. The dictator was gone, but his ghost would linger. The reaction in Iraq was split. Some celebrated. Others, particularly Sunnis, mourned. Across the world, human rights groups questioned the rushed process, the jeering crowd, and the amateur footage that leaked, showing the execution room like a scene from a mob movie. There was justice, yes, but was there dignity? And then, silence again. Saddam was buried in his hometown near Tikrit, not far from the hole where he was found hiding. His tomb became a pilgrimage site for some, a warning for others. But here's the bitter truth. Saddam's death didn't bring peace. Iraq didn't heal. In fact, the sectarian violence only worsened. The power vacuum left behind would give rise to more chaos and eventually ISIS. Saddam had ruled through terror, but removing him without rebuilding the foundations of the state led to even more terror. In his final 24 hours, Saddam Hussein wasn't the monster in a palace or the dictator on TV. He was just a man, stripped of titles, armies, and fear, facing the consequences of a lifetime of cruelty. And yet, even at the end, he refused remorse. No apologies, no regret. As Roubaix put it, it was a strange feeling. The room was full of death. He deserved to be hanged 1,000 times, but it still felt strange. That's the paradox of justice. Sometimes, even when it's served, it leaves behind the echo of what it couldn't fix. History rarely ends cleanly. Saddam Hussein's final hours remind us that justice isn't always peace, and closure doesn't always come with a verdict.